actually, I think it's a real thing because I've heard it from friends too on those days that they go in. It's literally they're out by like 3. So I don't know if
Yeah.
it's extreme. I just don't think it's a full day. And I think there's a little bit of wiggle room there. And it obviously depends on your industry, depends on, the work that has to get done. And obviously if your superiors, your bosses are doing the same thing, that's not setting a good example. I think that's really what it comes down to. And if they're
Well,
not enforcing it,
as someone who lives in New York City, and Adam, I'm sure you read about the news this past weekend that the congestion pricing passed.
yeah, let's
So
let's fill that in for everyone out there what that means, and let's give them some detail on a little bit of context.
so basically, I don't know the exact numbers of like the prices, but essentially New York City passed a law that says that if you enter below 60th Street, which is like most of anywhere important,
They call that the business district.
the business district, then you will
Let's get
have to
down to
pay
business.
an additional toll every single time you go in.
It's for vehicles only, not pedestrians.
For vehicles only,
Really?
but that means like trucks. I think it's like large trucks. It's like $36
Yeah, it's up
every
to
time.
it's expensive.
For single cars, it's like 15.
9,
But for taxis, it's like 125. For Ubers,
75 cents.
250. So it's really it's nuts. So where I think this like plays into it is going to the office is going to become a lot more expensive for
Right,
a
but how many
lot.
people drive in like that are not like a construction or doing some kind of physical thing where they need their vehicle? I think most people take public transportation in
Yeah,
around New York City. I mean, I
like
was watching the news. They had the most ridiculous interviews. They had a construction company from New York. And he's like, the guy's like, oh yeah, am I taking the ladders on the subway over here? What do you think? What do you think I'm doing? I can't take these ladders in the shit on the subway. Obviously, those people have to drive in, and it's going to affect it, and it's going to trickle down into
the
higher
cost.
prices.
Yeah,
But how is it going to affect the day-to-day commute on the subway? Is it going to increase volume significantly?
a
Like,
hundred
is it
percent. Plus, we've had a lot of crime in the New York City
Yeah.
subways.
Yeah,
If you
see?
haven't read the news recently, someone was just set on fire. So it's just like,
Awful.
and at the same time, New York isn't really taking a huge stance against like the crime and the violence that's going on in the New York City subway. I haven't seen them take a strong stance. And so
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons, and going back to this coffee badging thing, there's a lot of reasons to not go to the office, a lot more than there are to go in. And so I think that we're going to see a huge push back post RTO push that is around safety and a concern for safety, not only around pricing and budget.
All right. You guys got this.
Yeah.
Joel, what say you?
I think as soon as hiring gets more competitive, which at some point that's going to happen because it's a market, right? They call it a job market. So once it starts to shift back a little bit towards the candidate, where recruiters are reaching out to candidates and saying, hey, I got a new opportunity, I think all of us recruiters are going to be advising clients or advising our own companies and saying, look, if you can offer remote work or at least like a really substantial hybrid model, you're going to be able to attract this talent that you're going after. So I think stories like this, it just adds to it, right? Because whether or
Mm.
not it impacts people negatively who are going to the work, the perception is it's going to help remote, it's going to go against people who are going into the office. So yeah, I think stories like this, like Danielle said, will help